Let me just review. So we're kind of just reviewing where we left off. Here's our database diagram with the agent model, buyer model, property model, and address model. Agent has many buyers, agent has many properties, property has one address. All right. Let's keep going. Another thing that's really useful if we have it is like a wireframe. Wireframes are nice, very useful because we can go in and kind of like just really know what features we're building. Oh yeah, we're doing like a available where we're listing by agent an agent's properties. We have this cities page where we select the city and then we see this information. We have a find homes page where we select an agent, then we select that agent's buyers, and then we see the properties that match the buyer's desired cities and price range. And then we have the city cost page, which shows all of the average of prices in each city. I could look at the stories. I think like looking, since we had the wireframes show that. Another thing, so I've kind of got that in my head. Oh yeah, here's what we're building. I'm going to look at my Trello board. So let's just pretend I did this yesterday. I would have probably done something like this. So because we're going to work on this cities feature and the city backend feature today. But we were currently working on this available feature. And yeah, I threw a note in here yesterday. You know, we got normalizing done, need to hook up UI, some issues with state and zip not showing. So when I said I would like leave notes, like sticky notes on my desk, this would maybe be something like I did, because you might not finish a ticket at the end of the day and you want to go home. But it was nice to make that note that, you know, on this available front end ticket that we were working on, that we got normalized done, but we didn't hook up the UI. And then I remembered, now I remember, oh yeah, there was an issue where state and zip were coming up as undefined. So this note took me 10 seconds to write when it was yesterday, when it was fresh on my mind. And so when I get here the next day and I start working on stuff, I'm going to be able to hit the ground running. And I could even, since I have like these to-dos done, once again, these could be on a sticky note, or if you have these to-dos on the Trello board, this can be a way to review what you did. We like figured out the UI, we set up React router, we got data on mount, and then we normalized our data. So now we need to hook up the real data with the UI. Sweet. And then I could also maybe look at like the like done. And you know, because there might be a lot of on here, but they might be organized by the order. But I could kind of like remember, oh yeah, we did this yesterday. Because here's a very common thing that you're going to have to do every day at your job. Has anyone heard the term a stand-up meeting? Has anyone done any of those? Yay, nay? You definitely will in the tech field. It'd be very weird if you didn't, but. So stand-up is a way for you to get with your team. Like, so we're working on this real estate app. In development, you're going to be working with multiple people. So what you probably are going to do every day is you're going to have a quick stand-up meeting. And we're going to talk about Scrum and like get a little more into project management when we get into our portfolio project. But essentially, there's different flavors of it, but you're really going to be, they're going to ask you like 3 questions. Like they're going to ask you, what did you work on yesterday? What are you working on today? And like, are there any potential blockers or places where you're stuck? So, and this is why like a Trello board's nice, because you would have like 7 people in a meeting. Someone would be sharing their screen and you would be looking at a Trello board. And I'd be like, hey, Sally, what did you do yesterday? Or ask Sally those 3 questions. She'd be like, well, yesterday I set up GitHub and I came up with our database design. I'm currently working on, whatever. Currently working on this AI to find the best price. And then today I'm going to work on maybe the city's backend. So we do this so like multiple people aren't like Frank and Sally are not both working on this unintentionally. So I would say, yesterday I got the available backend page done. So hey, front end guy, if you want to get this working, you just need to get request to API properties, and you're going to get back this data. And then I'd say, today I'm working on this available page. I'd be like, we're almost done with it. Just need to do this part. I think this is going to take like an hour, and then we're going to start on the city's backend. Cool. So that would be the Scrum, and and that'd be the stand-up, and you're going to be doing stand-ups starting next week. So, because really, I mean, you're going to be having a job, which means they're going to be paying you, which means at some level, and companies are way different with this, they're going to be wanting to track like your time on what you're working with something. Some companies like track to like minutes. Others, they just want to know, hey, do you have enough work for today? And then another thing they want to know is if you see any unforeseen issues. Like if someone was working on this city cost, remember this one I might be like, oh man, I don't know. I think I'm going to get stuck on doing charts. And then that way they could pair you up with maybe someone who, it's like, hey, Frank knows how to do that. Get with him. He'll kind of help you out with that. So does this make sense? It's nice to have this, right? Now that we have this, we spent some time with this yesterday building it out. Might have seemed like a waste, but it's really nice when we start out the day, we kind of have this roadmap. And it's also really nice when we're working with multiple people on multiple projects. Because I've definitely been in like, it's actually been pretty rare that I've only been working on one like project in a company. So I'll be working on multiple teams. So it's very nice to have like a board for each project and for each team that you can all kind of agree upon. The next thing I might do is like trying to get like remembering what's going on with what I did the last day is just by opening up my app. I always like to do like a get status. Hopefully that's clean. It's not because I just did that brain teaser file. So that's fine. I can just add that really quick. What do you think you might want to do with Git at the beginning of the day?
Poll.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't do anything. I mean, obviously this is just my project, but yeah, it's always a good idea when you start working, pull. I could step into code. Something I might do is, I could look at my source control, kind of look at some of my previous commits, just to see like what I've done. So yeah, yesterday we added an available page. This can be another way you can kind of refresh yourself on what you did. Sweet. And once again, if your commits are organized, this is going to help like refresh what you did. So this is like an available backend done. Okay, so all of these commits or all of these changes have to do with this backend part of the available page. Models created. So all of these should have to do with creating our models. So I've got like, beyond honest, like I feel like I was not, and I still feel like it's something I need to work on, but I was not super organized before I came into software. But software has like forced me to be organized or more organized. So there's a lot of different ways you become organized. It's like doing clean commits, having a Trello board, leaving instructions for yourself, like notes about what you did the previous day, things like that. Having stuff organized in your own way where you can get to stuff easily. So the next thing I can do is just start up my server. And open up my app. So localhost 3000. Available. There's that. Let me move this. Cool. So like I said, since I left myself that message about what I did, it's like, okay, I know I did my normalized data, but I remember saying there was something wrong with like my beds and zip. So I can come in and like inspect this. Look at that. So I've normalized the data to how I wanted it, email name, properties. If I look at this, yeah, my state and zip is undefined. So yeah, it's like I can work on that. So what else do we want to do with this? So we want to take this array of data and we want to convert it to our little Trello thing, or sorry, not our that thing we came up with, Code Sandbox. Where is that? Oh crap, I didn't like throw that in this card. See, that should have been something, I should have thrown that link in this card. It's not like a huge deal, but now I have to go to like Code Sandbox and go find that. Which it's going to be there. But like if this was like a month later, this might be harder to find. But this link right here, UI demo for this page. Throw that in here. So I start getting this. So this is how these tickets start to look. This is the available front end ticket. I'm going to have a lot of description about what this is. I'm maybe going to have some to-dos. And then also I might have like threads about the progress of this and links to any pertinent, links for this specific ticket. So then I could go to this code sandbox and be like, oh yeah, this is what I want this to look like. Cool. And that's where we left off. And now it's like, okay, so where I'm at, I want to go from this array of data. Actually, I have it right here with the email and name of the agent and then the properties as another array. So I want to go from this array of data to this UI. Now I spent maybe like 15 minutes going through that, in Trello, but I think once you get into the flow day to day, you can do this in like 5 minutes. You go through your Trello board, you maybe go through some of your previous commits, you go through some of your messages that you maybe left yourself about what you're working on, and then you can just hit the ground running. But I don't know, I'm trying to, like, I'm not, like, I have a love-hate-love relationship with like project management and like Trello and Scrum and all that stuff, but you at least see that it is something you're going to need, especially once your apps get more complicated. And for people like myself who have horrible memories, it's just spending 5, 10 minutes or 15 minutes just kind of catching myself up where I am at the day. Like I feel like I know exactly what I need to do now. Is anyone like unsure about what we're doing today? Or like not even maybe today, but like the next step of like this available front end feature? It's like you maybe didn't know what we were doing 10 minutes ago, but now we do. We're going to do this available feature, then we're going to do the cities back end and front end feature. Cool. Sweet. So let's take a break. I know we haven't really done any code minus the brain teaser, but when I went to DevPoint Labs, there was like no project management type stuff. And then I got my first job and it was just, it's so a huge part of it. It would be like not knowing GitHub. So yeah, I would say this is as important as like your GitHub knowledge. So you're going to be using it. It's pretty rare that you would go into a company that did not use this at all. So let's take a break. Let's come back at 11:05. Cool. If you're up for it, you can try to go from that array of data to the UI part if you want a little challenge. But cool. Let me know if you got any questions. So I'm gonna need like a couple more minutes. Let's come back. Let's just call it 11:10. Throw that out in Slack. Okay. Let's get started. Let me share my screen. All right. I kind of think since I have this code sandbox set up, I don't know, I could do this in code sandbox, or I could do it in, let's do it in our React app. You could try to, because this next step I think is a little challenging too. It's like we have our data and now we want to make this work with our UI. So I'm going to do this first. So we have this normalized data function where we're just console.logging this. So I'm just going to return. This is what we actually want to return. We don't want to log it. It's not really useful. That's just more for testing. So I'm now going to return this normalized data. So, and then I can store that to a variable or I can just, I'll do this in 2 lines so it's a little more readable. Normalized data. What's that? So now that function returns this. And then this is what I'm going to set. And then we should be able to see that in our JSON.stringify. It's a little hard to read, but you know, we have there's one object, email, name, and then the properties. Cool. All right. So with this, now I can go to my semantic UI example and let's just get some of this in here. So we had a agent component that has this. So I'm going to copy this. Another way I might want to organize this is to, in my pages, kind of maybe like, if I'm going to have multiple components, I could even have a folder inside of here called like available. And then I could do inside of here, we'll have an agent.js. Eventually have a cities page in here. Actually, I want to make this lowercase. Just I usually have my folders lowercase. Okay. So yeah, this project's going to get big. So if we look at our, just to kind of review our folder structure. So we have this source folder, components. These might be things we shared across. And then I'm going to do this pages one where we can throw, you know, our specific kind of page features. So then we'll have like available, can have kind of like the index here, and then this agent table example. I'm going to rename that, but so I might have like inside of here, like let's just call it agent. Let's just call this the properties table properties table.js. Okay, so then I can go grab that. I'm going to need to kind of clean this up a little bit, but call this properties. Don't need that. Can get rid of all these unused imports. Now you might find using semantic UI is a pain, because you do have to do this step of like taking it from semantic UI to your folder, to your project. I think by separating it, it really does help. I would do that all the time in my, even more recently. It's just nice to kind of have that. And then the nice thing too is you also have this little link as this little working example. You can throw that in your Trello board or somewhere and reference it later. Cool. All right. So now I'm just kind of hooking this up. So my agent is not going to have this tables. It's going to have like this properties. Did I not export this? Const properties, export default properties. Let's call that properties table. So it matches. Properties table. And I can get rid of that unused import. And then in my available, let's just render an agent or two. I'm just trying to get that UI working. Can't resolve pages available since I moved that folder. I'm going to, sometimes it doesn't always fix the import. So I think that's coming from here. No, pages available. That's in my app.js. Okay, so what I'm going to do, sometimes when you remove or you like change the locations of files, it can sometimes be good just to stop your React server and rerun it. And there we go. Sweet. So that's looking a little better. I can go back to my available. I'm actually going to wrap this in a container. Or actually, let's do this here in my app.js. Maybe I want to wrap all of this in a container component. This will just give me a little bit of padding. It's more just you don't have to do this, but let's see here. Where's my code? It just gives me some a little bit of padding for the main container or my main body. So does anyone need, so actually I'll select this out when we get a little further along. So I just did this step of transferring my stuff from semantic UI to my project. And now I can start working on actually looping over this stuff because I don't want to stringify it. I want to create a whole bunch of agents. So let's do this in a function, render agent properties. Const render agent properties. Can't spell this. Is this going to be my function? So I'm going to map through this data, agent properties.map, go through each agent. And I want to return my agent component. Let's give it a key. I believe we have an ID on that. And then I can just pass out down all of these things from the agent. Let's see if that worked. Once again, it's these small, do small bits of work and then test. Cool. Well, I feel like I should have more than 2 agents, right? I should have 10, I believe. So I don't think I'm returning that. Return. Cool. There are all these hard-coded things, but I'm getting my way there. So let's now maybe work on the name. So instead of hard coding the name, how do we get the name? If you don't know, you can always like throw in console.logs or debuggers. What is A? See, A is just the agent. So I should be able to grab an email and a name from props. So this is getting a name prop and an email prop. So now I could do name. Cool. So now I'm going through my agents, getting their names. If I wanted, I can do a little span. Let's see if I can give this just like a make this smaller. Throw in the email. Font size. Cool. Maybe give it some color. Now that we know hexadecimal, do some anything. So this is a little shorthand. This is all 9s. Anytime you have like your red, green, and blue the same, it's going to be either white, black, or a shade of gray. There's a little gray. Cool. So now we're going through each of our agents. For the properties table, well, don't we get a properties prop? Let's just pass that down. Properties, properties. So here's my agent. My agent has a name, email, properties, but we're going to have the properties table do this stuff. All right. So now we're going to do properties here. We can destructure properties. All right, so I want to do this here in my table body. If I look, because these I want to leave hard coded because those are my headers. But what I want to do is go through each of my properties and create this table, these table cells. So I could maybe just delete one, keep one of these there inside of here. Properties.map. Go through each of my properties and return this. I could test this now, like they're still going to be hard coded, but I could at least see, am I mapping over all of my properties? Cool, and I am, because now they have different numbers of properties. Sweets. Let's give this a key. I believe I have an ID on there, hopefully. So now I can come through, let's do the property.price. Like I said, You can never test too much. Let's just see if that's working. Sweet. So now we're grabbing the price. Come through, grab the beds. Grab the baths. Grab the street per square foot. Street, which was still not working. We'll fix this in a second. So now we go through, we're going through each of our agents, and then we go through each to create these agent cards, and then we go through each of the agent's properties to create the properties table. Cool. So let me slack out this agent component. That's one. There's our agent table. And let's also do this properties table. Slack that out too. Cool. So this is very close to being done. I have one issue with our city and zip not showing. And I know this is an issue with when we normalize our data from that message I left myself. We weren't getting it correctly. So something I could do here is I'm going to do a console.log this p object right here, because I kind of want to see what is this coming back as. Does this have the state and street? Because I think this is where it's kind of getting messed up. So clear my console, refresh, look at one of those. I do have the street. I don't have the state. So let's see here. Oh wait, this street is working. Okay, I need the city and zip. Now this is where I think coding can get really hard. Because we've just, I mean, right, whose brain is just kind of feeling like mush with all these moving pieces? Like, and another question I could ask, where is this issue coming from? Is this is where debugging gets hard. So this is where you need to like backtrack and kind of go through and be able to understand your code. So let's review this available component. So with this available component, when this component mounts, we get the agent properties. So we do our Axios call to get agent properties. Well, let's see what just that. So even before we normalize it, let's just log. Maybe I'll just throw in a debugger right here. Because I'm not getting this zip and city information. I need to kind of figure out where is this issue coming from. So this could be a great place to look. Like right when we get our response back, let's see if we have that information. So I get my agent properties. There's my response. Oh, let's go to my element. Let's go to my debugger. Where is it? Okay, sources. Wait, what? Console clear. Let's see if I can do my res right here. there's my res.data. So this is the response. This is the data from my database. So I can come look at all of these. And I look at this. I don't see city and zip in here. So did that answer? Does anyone now know where this issue is coming from?
Is it in your SQL query? Like it's not getting
Yeah,
queried there.
that could potentially be this really lets me know this is a backend problem, right? Because my API call is not giving me. So that this is the point I want to make. If you can narrow it down to that, then yes, now I want to go look at maybe something like my SQL query. Because I could have maybe thought this is maybe a problem with my normalize function or something with my UI or when I like created this table. But by inspecting it right here, I'm not getting back city and zip information from the backend. So this is 100% right now an issue with the backend. And that's going to save you a lot of time in debugging. So then, and just to maybe like, because maybe you're not the backend person, you know, we could go to Trello. You could go to this ticket, or you just like on Slack, you could Slack your buddy, but you could like add, you know, your developer. I'll just add myself. Yo, no backend, like, or I could say no city zip info. You know, maybe have a link to bug report. Or like you could create, we'll talk about issues. We could create an issue in GitHub, etc. So I could add the developer. This might be the project manager who does this. They're like, hey, this does not work. And now this goes back to like on deck. And then, you know, your developer will be like, okay, I'll go fix that issue. And, you know, we could like label this as like a bug. Cool. Let's go fix that. So if I go to my where do I want to go? See, now it's like, now I gotta switch brains to like the back end. And really like this, like I'm getting tripped up right now. Like, okay, because I've been in front end mode for like the last hour or last 30 minutes. Now I gotta think about, this is from the back end from my SQL call. Okay, so sometimes if you get stuck like this, looking through your folders can help. So let's look at like our models. We have a property model. That's where we do our available call. Another place that's a good place to start is with the routes, because then you can look at the specific route. Okay, so get properties. This one's the one that's broken. It's the get properties. That takes me to my properties index method. Okay, so let's go to my properties controller. We have the index method that renders JSON property.available. Okay, so let's go look at that method. That's the one we were just looking at, property.available. And we look at that. Yeah, and as Kobe said, there's no city or zip on here. So let's just add that. A.city, A.zip. As the backend developer, I could go quickly test that, like in Postman or something, just do localhost 3001, 3001 API/properties, city and zip. Now it looks like it's there. Cool. So I might want to commit this, but just this one change. So I could go through, I could add, look at my changes. Okay, fix that. I could add just this file, and then I could do a commit, bug fix city and state. Query. Commit that. Push that up to master. And we haven't done pull requests, but I could fix that. I could push just that one change up, and then everyone else on my team could grab it. Sweet. So now let's go back to my React app. I'm going to get rid of that debugger. So that was, see, now I got to switch to the front end mind. So let's go back to my available.js, get rid of that debugger. So hopefully if I did my front end right, that should fix that. I need to restart my server. Okay, so now I don't have my city. I got my zip, I don't have my city. So I could throw in back this debugger. Look at that response. Look at my data. City. I do have the city. Okay, so now I am getting back the city from my database. So now I know, wait, I'm good here, right? Like this is good. I have that city information. So now I need to go to this next step. Is something wrong here in this next line of code? That's my normalized data function. Oh yeah, I even log this console.log. I'm logging this property variable. So I could continue just to even show that, like, see, this does have the city there. Okay, so like I'm good there. What about here? Am I good here?
I don't see city.
Yeah, I don't have city here. Oh, so there's my issue. Let's add that to this object. P.city. And there we go. These kind of bugs, these are like, can be very hard to find because if I'm missing, I'll just to get that back. If I'm missing city in my UI, this could be coming from a lot of different places. I mean, we saw two examples where it was, first of all, I had missed it from my SQL call. And then secondly, I had missed it here by when I did my normalized data. I could have also maybe not passed it down as props correctly or just called it wrong. Because, I mean, this is a big process. We go from like our database to that custom SQL call, to this Axios call, to normalizing this data, to then mapping over that data, passing it to an agent, passing the properties down to this properties table, mapping over those, and then in here. Like I could have misspelled that. And I did not fix that. So this is definitely one of the kind of challenging things about coding. Let me show you this little GIF or meme. to kind of illustrate this, why not two? Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so this is why you shouldn't interrupt a programmer. You know, just showing some coder, just like going through all of this mental stuff, like creating this mental image. And then someone is just like, hey, so I just sent you an email about a thing, and then it's like back to the start. So I'm kind of showing you this just to say, like, this is hard. This is hard stuff to keep track of. A lot of different, you know, things connecting. So don't get frustrated with yourself if you struggle on this, or if you spend, you know, 1 hour trying to realize that's where you're missing that issue. Especially when you're starting out, these issues can be tough to find. But as you're learning this, get good, you know, get good with using your tools, like the debuggers, the console.logs, your server logs, just whatever you can to help track down these pieces. This stuff definitely comes up all the time, which I'm sure you've experienced. Cool. So I would now say this feature, well, I could say that's, you know, done. That fix is done. But now this one is done. We hooked up real UI to data. I always should have thrown that one in there, the test. I think we've tested this decently. And there we go. So there's our available feature. Can go ahead. Let's now commit this, but just kind of going through some best practices. Let's look at our changes. So instead of just doing a get add dot get commit, let's go through our Git history and see what we actually changed. Okay. So I've added this container. Seems like I've added this normalize. Okay, well, I don't want to add that. Like, what's that? That looks like an accidental import. So I'm going to delete that because I'm not using it. I moved this file, so that's why that's there. I just moved it, so it deleted it and recreated it. In my agent looks good. So things I'm looking for is like unused imports, maybe extra lines. I just want to keep this clean. I look at my available. That's looking good. I think one thing that can happen is, and that in the real world, you're never going to want to add these console.logs. You can use them for testing, but you're not going to want to have those for in production. So removing the console.logs is good. Like here, I don't need, and also another thing I don't want to leave is these comments that maybe I kept for myself to maybe explain what I need to do. Like, I don't need to normalize. This is done. This would be very confusing if I left this comment in here, because it would seem like something needs to be done. So I'm going to get rid of that. Go through my properties table, just kind of doing like a basic little proofreading. Oh yeah, and as I go through these, I can like add these changes individually. It's kind of like, yep, you've been proofread. Like here, like it's small stuff even like this, like, oh, there's a, like, I don't need that extra line right there. Let's get rid of it. Maybe I don't need that one. Cool. Add that. And look at my properties. That looks good. Let's add it. Now I can commit. So let's do available front end. Or I'll just call it available front end. Cool. So now that's committed. And then I can do a git push origin master. Go to my Trello board. You know, if I had another team and I did a pull request, or my teammates, I might be like, okay, hey, this feature's done. Does someone want to like look at the code, test it? Let's pretend they did and merged it to master, then it would be done. Cool. And now we can start working on the backend feature. So let's remind ourselves what we need to do with this. We want to do this finding for sale homes by Alice. We want a cities page where we have a drop down, grabbing all available cities, and there I can select a city. Once I see that, I should see the number of beds, bathrooms, square footage. Okay, so I can take this little description, throw this in the card. Just while I'm here, I'm going to also throw that description in this front end card. Okay, but let's think about, so now we're just, once again, we're kind of going back to just being a back-end developer. Let's maybe think about what we need to do for this. Could do this as a checklist, to-dos. Ideas here. You could also review, if you had like the wireframe, this might be useful. If we review the wireframe, you know, we have a cities page, so, you know, get the cities. Once a city is selected, then get, you know, price, beds, bath, square footage for that property in that city. Cool. So, ideas. No one?
So we're trying to do a tab. Is that what we're trying to do?
We're trying to do what?
So we're trying to create a new tab so that we have a drop down of all the available cities and stuff like that. Is that what we're trying to do?
Well, as a whole, yes, but I'm the back-end developer. So I don't like, to me, I want to be able for someone to create that UI eventually. But so this is, and like, this should help us maybe break this up into tasks, because right now I'm thinking as like, this is just the back end. But I can use like the front end, like I can use this wireframe to help just illustrate what they're going to need. But I don't have to do, it's not like I have to figure out how to do tabs. But what do I need to provide to my, you know, developer, or to like the front end?
The information.
Yeah, so what information?
The for sale homes by city. Or
So yeah, there's going to be like an API call, like for sale homes. let's say the API call for sale homes with a given city. Okay, I need to figure out how to do that. What else should I probably do with this?
Add the route.
Yeah, so this I mean, that would be like, I need to do routes. Maybe the SQL call. And then like a custom model method. So yeah, for that, and we'll look at this in a second, but I need actually one more API call, don't I? This first one, right? Don't I need to give them the unique cities? So
Yeah.
that's going to be the other thing. I need to like, you know, unique cities. So maybe let me just maybe delete this to-do list, because maybe the way I could almost think of this is 2 API calls. There's going to be like a unique cities API call. And then there's going to be like a for sale home by city API call. So for both of these, we could say like, hey, we want to figure out how to do this in SQL. So it's how to actually do this. We're going to want to like add, you know, the route for this, and, you know, set up controller and, you know, model method. This one, once again, you know, figure out how to do this in SQL, add a route, and then set up our controller. Cool. Cool. So something I could maybe do right now is just kind of maybe come up with a little plan. So let's just do the unique cities API call. So I'm just going to say, hey, if you do an API, if we do a GET request to, you know, slash API slash, let me just see what I called this in the notes. Okay, I think I might not have this one in the notes, so we'll just come up with it. Okay, so I'm going to do an API slash, let's just call this API slash cities. I think that kind of makes sense. That should give me my unique cities. Like, and we'll just have it be in an array of, you know, strings. Cool. And then I'm going to do a API call. I'm going to do a GET request to slash API slash cities, and then they need to give me the city, the one where they want, and then that can go ahead and return, you know, that stuff I need, an array of objects with like, you know, ID, price, that's. This can be like for sale. city. I know we're spending like maybe 10 minutes doing this. Like, shouldn't I just go code this? You can, and if you're fine with this doing this in your head, that's cool. But really, if this is the first starting point, and this is one of the hardest points, is you have to kind of describe to yourself what you need to do. Sometimes you might need to go step into some code and like kind of experiment a little so you can help describe to yourself what you want to do. But I at least need some sort of a game plan. And I think now we kind of have that, right? And then I could ask myself, okay, let's say these are just done. Like I can do a get request API cities. That gives them back a list of cities. And then I can do a get request to API cities, and then they give me the city, and that will give me back that array of objects with the stuff they need. That's enough for them to do this UI, or for me to do this UI, right? So I can kind of say like, this is a good game plan. Like, I think I have all the pieces I need. And, as you get further into your career, a little more mid and senior level developer, like no one's going to be like, you're going to just be getting the description. You might get a wireframe. Then you need to, like, it's you who's coming up with what is the route going to be? What is it going to return? Like that's kind of on you, because the person who is usually telling you what to build, they don't really know any code. That is your job. Cool. So we have that. So now I could say, let's move this to on deck so let's actually follow the process here. So really, before I want to start working on something, if I look at this in progress instructions, this is where we place cards when they're being worked. So before we move something here, we should make sure the tasks and requirements are clear. We're going to add our name to the card. We're going to pull from master and create a new branch. So we just did this, right? We made sure the tasks and requirements are clear. We have a good idea on how to actually work this. So we could add our name to the card. Oh, I don't want to do that right here. So on this one, this is clear what I need to do. So then I'm like, okay, I'm going to be working on this so I can add my name to it. Okay, the next thing, we're going to pull from master. I mean, it's not like I can move this card. It's not like moving this does anything. But I'll move this to master, or I'll pull from master, sorry. I'm working on a new ticket. Something else I should do is like, just make sure I don't have any changes on my own Git. So let's pull from master and create a branch. Git checkout -b. What should I call this? This is going to be my cities. I can use kind of like a description of what the feature is going to be to name my branch. So I'll call my branch cities backend branch. You know what I'll do also right now? I'll just like push up to GitHub to this cities backend branch. The reason why I might do that, like these features might, when you're working on features at a place, they can take days or weeks sometimes. Let me just go to this app. I can look at this branch. It's there. I can now throw like in my Trello card. In the description or up here, link to branch. Just in case if anyone else needs to work on this or wants to look at the code, that branch is just there. Cool. So we're in progress. Tasks are clear. We've added the name, we pulled from master, and we've created a branch. And now we can start working. Okay. So let's start working on it. So let's do this unique cities API call. So figure out how to do this in SQL. Let me do this. I'm going to quit this so we can just start from scratch with this. So let's open up SQL or SQL Electron. Connect to the database. I'm just going to search for this. 2722. So connect to my database. All right, so now just trying to keep this easier for myself. Now I'm just trying to figure out how do I get unique cities from my database? Well, why don't we just start out with how do I just grab my cities? So I could select city from, those are on my addresses table, right? I can't, why is it not? I just think I'm zoomed in too far. Okay, so there are my cities from each of my addresses, but I don't want multiple. I want these to be unique. Does anyone know what I need to do? I just need to add one line or one word. If you don't know, go to Google, get unique values, PostgreSQL. So if you can, once again, if you can ask these direct specific questions, looks like there's a select distinct and then the name of the column from table. So looks like it is the distinct. There we go. What's that, Jesus? Okay. Sweet. So my Trello card, it's like, okay, we figured out how to do that. We're going to add a route, which we've already kind of decided what it's going to be. It's going to be a GET request to API cities. Okay, so let's go to my routes. A GET request to API/cities. That should take me to, well, I don't have a city model, so I could maybe go to, I could do this in my properties or my addresses controller. So I can kind of choose, let me see where, I guess in the notes we do it in the properties. I could create like an addresses controller, but I think this is fine to do it in the properties. So this can be properties, cities method. And maybe if I want, like, I can maybe call this like unique cities. Or cities, I'll just keep it like that. So now I go to my properties controller. Def cities. And let's do a quick little test, render JSON. Yo. Just to see, do I have this set up correctly? So I could go to localhost 3001 API slash, was it cities? Oh, I don't have my server running. No route match. What did I call that? Did I already screw that up? Get, oh, the API cities. I don't need the API because we're namespaced. And there's, that's just, I just wanted to do a quick check to make sure I'm hitting that method with this path. Cool. So now I can go in and now I want to, I don't want to do that. I'm going to do property. I'm going to create a method called cities on here. So then I can go to my property model, define that def self dot cities, and now I can do my actual SQL here. So I'll do my property dot define by SQL and slack that in there. I guess since I'm getting this from my address, or let's just do it for my address model. Refresh that. It's coming back with an ID that is null. Remove ID from SQL. So I might need to Google this. I wonder what is the way to remove this. Remove attributes from find by SQL. Select. I don't know, I could, there's gotta be a way to do it, but I could also do it like this. X equals that, and then I could do an X top map. Do city, and just return the city dot, what is it coming back as? It's the city key. So I could just pull this, I can map over this array of data and just grab that city key. Let's call this cities. Refresh. There we go. There's my array of cities. Doesn't make sense for it. Like a city doesn't have an ID because they're an attribute on a column. And this is like, I know, like I told you, it was bad to do a map in that one SQL call. It was bad to do a map in that call because it was doing SQL calls in each of the, in the block. This one, I'm just mapping over it and returning the city. So I'm not doing inner SQL calls here. So this is fine. I'm sure there's a way to remove that ID, but this will work for now. Cool. So looking at my Trello, just keeping things straight. You know, we added the route, we've set it up this. I always need to say this test. Add item test. This is very important. Right, we've tested that, that looks good. Cool. Something I might want to do since I got that part done is just like do a commit since I have something working. No unique city feature. Done. Except I should have gone through and checked. I need to stop doing that. Get add dot and start using VS Code to check those changes. All right. So now that that's done, we can go ahead and start working on this one. So for sell home by city API call. So someone's going to do a get request API city, and then I want to find like the ID, price, beds, bath from that given city. Okay, so let's go to our SQL. So really select, what do I want? I want my price, beds, baths. Was it square footage maybe? All of those addresses, and I could check my schema just to double check, but these are all on my properties table. And let's just also, I could show this as well. Because this one seems like it might be a little straightforward, but if we look at it, it's not quite. Because I don't have the city information. The other thing I don't want with this is I want where sold is not true. I only want to grab the homes that are for sale. But the issue here with this is I don't have any city information because I'm going to want to filter this by city. Well, my city information lives on my address. So I'm going to, and just to show you that, just as a refresher, select star from addresses. Run this one. There's the city information. All right, so I need to do a join. But if I also look at my addresses, this has the my addresses table has the property ID. So I can join on where my address is property underscore ID equals the ID in my property table. All right. So inner, and I'm also going to alias these. Inner join addresses. Let's just do this as A. And so these are a little more stylistically correct. I'll do those as uppercase because those are SQL commands. And I'm going to do on my address.property underscore ID equals my property.id. Duplicate columns. Okay, I don't really need to select everything, so I'll go back to this select. Cool, but now I should have some city information. Cool. Well, if I just want to grab one city, and we can just hard code this for now, I'm going to do and. I'm going to use this lower command. This is just going to, because there might be like, you know, SLCs, caps locks all the way through. Draper has an uppercase D. I'm just going to lowercase these so I know I'm working with only lowercase. So I can lowercase my a.city. And I'm going to have that just equal to be, and let's just hard code for now, like Draper, lowercase. Cool. So that grabs me all of my Draper properties. If I were to do SLC, that would grab me all my Salt Lake properties. Let's give this back an ID as well. Let's do the property.id. So they have it. Cool. So that is what we need, right? That gives us all the information we need. This really doesn't even need the city, but I don't think it hurts. Then they at least know it's unique. All right. So let's go ahead and do this. So I can go, there's that step. So we figured out how to do it in SQL. Then we'll do the route. So let's go to my routes. That's going to be a GET request to cities. And then they need to give me the city. And that should go to properties. Set that go to our properties controller. And I don't know, let's just call this by city. Cool. So then I could go to my properties controller and do def by city. And so I kind of just like to test these routes out. Yo. Let's do this. Let's render it because I want to show you this. Let's just say like message. I want to make sure I'm getting the city. So how do I get the city? In this method, it's going to be params what? How am I going to get in this method the city that the front end sent me? Is it params ID?
ID.
How do I know it's param city? How do I know that? It's whatever I named it right here. I called it city. So that's how I'm going to get that. So let's do API cities and then we'll do, like SLC. I have some message, but I'm grabbing that thing they sent in the URL. Let me also slack out this SQL call. Okay. So go back to our properties controller. I don't want to just do this. This was just for testing. I'm going to do a method property dot by, I'll call it by city. And I'm going to pass this method the city that I got. So I'll do params city. So now I can go to my property controller, or sorry, my property model to do this function. Def self dot by city. It should take a city. And then I'll do my properties, property dot find by SQL. Paste in that SQL. For now, I'll hard code Salt Lake. Let's just see if we can get this working. Cool. I'm grabbing all my Salt Lake City houses, but now I don't want to just have this. This I want to be my variable, right? So I'm going to show you how to do this. Is so because we're going to start having SQL calls where we want to like use variables in here, because obviously I want to use city here. But how I'm going to do this is I'm going to wrap this whole find by SQL in an array. So find by SQL. So the first index in this find by SQL is the actual string. And what I can throw in this string are question marks. I can do multiple question marks. This one just needs one. But what this question mark is going to be, it's going to be like it's saying, hey, this is a variable. And I can just place these in order of like things I want to use, like the values for those question marks. So I want to use the city. So that's going to be the second index in my array. So I have a string, which is my SQL call, and then I could have multiple question marks followed by multiple like values, and then they'll one by one replace where those question marks are. So really, this is going to plot that city right there. So if I hit refresh, bind, did I do this wrong? Wrong number of binds. Okay. Let me double check. See, find by SQL, there's the array. So like, here's an example. Find by SQL, we do the SQL call. Then the commas, author ID. What doesn't it like with this? Let me get rid of this. I don't think that's it. Did I not save it? Okay. Let's try this one more time. Not quite sure what's wrong because that looks like what they have it as. Okay, let's refresh. Oh, maybe it doesn't like this on a new line. Let's try this. Or does it not want those? Maybe it doesn't want those in quotes. Okay, there we go. I wonder, was it this? Was it the single quotes? Okay, yeah, it didn't like that, those quotes there. So now I can do, that's, sorry, I just needed to get rid of those quotes there around that question mark. Now, if I hit refresh, I don't get anything back because I don't have a DSGF city. So I can do SLC. Cool. Draper. It's getting me back all my Draper houses. And I forgot what else we had. If we had Provo or not. But there we go. That is now working. Cool. So now I can go through. I've tested it. If I look at my Trello kind of flow, we've added the route. We set up controller, on model, hooked up SQL type deal. That's done, and then we've tested it. So now this is complete, or I feel, as far as I'm concerned, as like the backend developer on this ticket, this is done. So I would now be ready to move this to like the testing column. So what do I want to do for this before I kind of move it? What's kind of the flow? Make sure the tasks are complete. We're also going to pull from master. I should add this too. You're going to want to, like, so you pull from master, you might want to test again after master, because sometimes when you pull from master, you might get changes that even before was working, but the changes you pulled from master might break what you did. So it's always a good thing to test after you pulled from master. And then we're going to push up to our branch, create a pull request if we want to merge, and then we're going to leave a link. Okay, so a couple steps there. So let's just do that. So I could do a get pull origin master. Oh, I also need to commit. Let's do a commit. So once again, go through my commits, my files, each page individually. Like that looks good. That looks good. That looks good. Cool. So this commit, we did the, you know, what was this? This was the find homes by cities backend. Cool. So now I could do a get pull origin master. It's committed. I could go retest. I mean, make sure it was still working, which it would be. And now I'm going to push up to my branch. Not Rails push, git push. Cool. So now I go to my GitHub. I could do a compare and pull request. So man, added cities. So here I can like say what I did, added cities backend branch or backend feature. Something that might be good to add here is this Trello card. Man, this stupid Zoom thing keeps getting on in my way. I'm gonna copy that. Once again, it's just kind of creating this trail, like links. My GitHub can link to my Trello can link to my GitHub. And here's the, Trello card. So I can create a pull request. So this is where I'd be like, okay, as the developer who did this feature, I'm not going to merge the pull request. I could throw this link here. Hey, this is ready to be reviewed / merged. Let's save it. And like on that Trello card, throw that in here. And as far as I'm done, like I would now, as James, I would be done with this. And then someone else would then be like, I'd like Slack my buddy, hey, you gotta go review this merge request or this pull request. It's in like the testing column. So then they can just go to the Trello board. They go find this pull request link. They go look at it. They'll go look at the changes that you made. So I've made 2 commits. I can look at the files that I've changed. They can review it. And they will either deny it or they'll merge it. So then they merge it to master. Now it's in master. And then like the testing people or whoever reviewed it would be like, okay, that's done. And then we get checkout master. start the flow again. Cool. Let's take a little break, and then we're not going to probably get this done. We're definitely not going to get this front end done, but let's come up with a little bit of a plan and go from there. But any questions or anything? Just lots of moving pieces, I know, but yeah, this takes practice, but use these tools as you do the homework. Like I said, this is more about, getting this like 25-50% done, but really understanding that. And then learning, then you'll slowly start to learn how to connect the dots. And then you'll realize coding is not that hard, because it's really just about breaking stuff up into very simple things that we know how to do. Definitely gets complicated when you try to combine those things, but cool. But that is, let's just come back at 12:40 and we'll kind of come up with a little game plan for the next thing. Cool. Okay. Let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. So yeah, we want to do the city's front end page. I'm kind of going to just quick, like not really go over this on Trello. Let's just look though what we want to build on the front end. And we're not going to get done with this, but I want to get far enough so I just kind of want to just show you how to do the drop down and maybe how that leads to an Axios call. And then we'll finish the feature up tomorrow. So for this, starting with a new feature, we just kind of want to make sure, I mean, even though we just did it, we pull from master. Make sure we don't have any pending changes. We could do a get checkout to our other branch. I'm going to not check out just because I'm not going to create a pull request. So but I would check out to a different branch to work on this. But we can skip that for now. But let's get started. So if it's a front end feature, the first thing I like to do is just set up the page. So we go to our client, our source pages. We do have this cities folder, so I'll come in here, do a cities.js file. Just kind of get this set up, import React. Cities. Forgetting how to write React. Okay, return. Cities page. Got a little placeholder. Export default cities. So just doing these small steps. This is a good one. Just set up this page. So now I need to go to my app.js, add a path for this cities. Let's have that go to our cities component. So let's make sure we imported that. Cool. Then I could go to my nav bar, add a link. Feel free during the homework to, style your nav bar. I think if I just even do a display flex on this, it will at least have it be a row. Just about content. Well, let's leave that. Let's just leave it like this for now. Okay. Let's also move this. I have to go through all the screens. Let's go to localhost 3000. There's my lovely nav bar. Cities page. I could just also really quickly just an A styling margin. 10 pixels. Grab it. Let's inspect. I thought these were A tags under the hood. They are. Am I not using this anywhere? Oh, this might be. I'm using semantic.css. So they probably have more specific styles on their A tags. So if I do that as important, it works. I'll just leave it to do though, because to do, I think eventually we want to use semantic navbar. So remove this when you do. Okay, but I can now go to the cities page. I have that set up. All right. So now I can do my Axios calls. Why don't we use Axios on mount? Just because we're in a hurry and we've done, when we mount a component, we just do this so often. So remember our use Axios on mount. Actually, I don't remember. We get back data loading an error in an object. And all we need to give it is a URL. So on the cities page, I could just, and really all I care about for now is just the data. I could get my data, use, and then I use my use Axios on mount. That goes to /API /cities, right? And let's just test this out. Let's call that data. That is null. Let's check my server. Well, it's null because my server is not running. Let's refresh. There we go. Now I have my cities, but I don't want that looking like that. I want that looking like a drop down. So since we're using semantic, let's just go into their documentation and see how to do a select or drop down. All right. So once again, I could try this in their code sandbox. I don't really need all these keys. All right. So it looks like I can select it, and one thing I really just can't stand about their documentation is they don't give you the on click, which is like the most important part. Why is that so horrible? Let's look at their drop down. Should be just their select, but okay. So I'm just gonna do it like this. Really. Okay, return. They should have a, I imagine they have an on change. How do I know that? I would just assume there's an on change event on here. It probably has an event. It might have like a second argument, but for now I really don't know. So I'm just going to console.log e and x. Let's call this handle change. So I'm giving their select a on change event. And yeah, it looks like it does take 2 arguments, but so we'll just see what these are. This first one is probably going to be the event. And then I'm hoping off of this X, I can pull off what I selected. Let's clear. Let's refresh. Do I have an error? So I go and I select. So when I change something, I see, I'm getting some warnings. Okay, there's my E. There's my X. I don't have a value. Oh, there it is. So my X is an object, and then I have a value on that. So just to show you, I could do an X dot value. That's really what I want, the value of this thing. I'm going to clear this. Why does it not like this? There's my value. So notice the value is, I give this a key. I give my select these options, which is going to be an array of objects with key, value, and text. Values, what's going to get sent to me on this on change, and the text is going to be what the user sees. And the key is just what Reacts need for that to be unique. So I've got this kind of figured out. So I'm going to do a render. Let's just do this right here. Render dropdown, or I could call it render select. Right, render select. This can go ahead and return this component. So I can just kind of copy this for now. But this, obviously this country options is not it. What I want to do here is I need to once again do like, I need to change this data, because my data is coming back as an array of just strings, and now I need to go from an array of strings to an array of objects with key, value, and text. So what I can do is like normalized data. I can go through my data, and maybe I can rename this to be, this should be renamed to cities. Call this normalized, or I could call this maybe cities options. So I'm going to map over my cities. And I want to return, I need a key. Remember the city, it's just a string, so I can just use that for each of these. So the key is going to be the city name, the value is going to be the city, and the text is going to be the city. And then I can throw those cities options right there, and I can return this select component. So my render select function, I go through that city data, convert it to how the select wants it, and then we'll render it. Also need this handle change. I'm just going to destructure the value off of that second object, because that's really all I really want. So I can copy this function right here. And go test this out. Localhost 3000. All right, so let's fix some of these errors. I need to import select. from semantic UI React. I need to make this a const so that render select is defined. So I need to spell it right there. Cool. Data is not defined. Here's my data. I'm renaming it to cities. Where am I using that? Oh, I no longer need to stringify that. So let's get rid of that. Let's go to my cities. Doesn't seem to like that. Cannot read properties null reading map. So what that's saying, I'm trying to map over my cities. I can't do that because when I first create this and my component mounts, it's doing the Axios call, so it's not there. So maybe I do want this loading variable. Good to say, and then I could check here, you know, if we're loading, I can turn maybe like a paragraph. Or maybe I could just return. It says like loading. I wonder if I can make this disabled too. So for loading, I'll say like loading. I can just do some basic loading UI. Make this select disabled, meaning they can't like select anything. And then once our Axios call mounts, we'll get the data, then we can map over it. So let's see if that fixes that. Nope. Available cities. We're still getting that error, line 14. Why? This, if not cities.
You had it as a bang cities.
Yeah, so this is if we don't have cities. Let's
Okay, I got you. I got you.
do the draw.
I
So
said dot cities.
okay, so why is oh, I need to return. That was my problem. Okay, if loading. So if we're loading, I want to do this, but I don't have the return keyword. So if we're loading, return this select, and that will, so since I didn't have the return, it would still continue. So if we're loading, I want to return that. Okay, and then when we refresh, now it's there. Now I have my cities. I click a city, there's my value SLC. That should not say select your country, that should say select your city. There we go, there's my drop down. Value equals SLC. Well, I don't want to log the value. What I want to do is I want to make this async, because this is where I'm going to do my Axios call. I can do like let res equal await. It's going to be an Axios dot get slash API slash cities. And then I actually want to pass the city here, which is just going to be my value from my Dropbox. Let's do a catch error. Let's do a basic alert. I need some more data. So I'm going to do a const. It's called properties and set properties equals use state. This is kind of a drawback of my use Axios on mount. It only works on mount. This one I'm doing on a select change, so I can't use that here. But I can still get working. Set properties res.data. And then we can do a render properties function. Properties. So once again, I can do something like this. And maybe I'm going to like set this equal to null at the start because I wouldn't expect to have any. So I can do something like this. Like if we do not have properties, meaning if it's null, maybe we just return. Just don't even have anything, but that could be our case. We could do something here if we don't have properties. If we do, let's just do a properties dot map. Go through each property. We're not going to make this look good right now, but just get this working like price. So let's just do this. Let's just do a in here JSON.stringify that property object. And I want to return this. And that. Cancel. Okay. Then make this a const. Use states not defined. Let's import that. So we select a country or city. That does not seem to be getting us. I mean, I can look at my server. I can see that we're doing this Axios call. Or sorry, we're doing like the Axios calls hitting our database. We are just not. We're not doing this properties.map. Let me do this. Instead of returning null, I'm going to just do a new properties. No properties. All right, it's kind of there. Like that no properties goes away. It's almost like this is not working. Let's just see if we go through and like log these yos for each property. Draper. Another thing I could do, like just to debug, I could just write here, JSON.stringify properties. Or like do a console. I need to see what these look like because why are these not rendering? So either throw them, like stringify them or log them. So no properties. Properties are null right now. We select the city. Properties looks like an empty array. So it's like I'm getting back an empty array. My city is Sandy. Oh. I did this lower right here, but I'm not lower casing it right there. Okay, that's my issue. So it's kind of, this is actually kind of, I feel like my backend should like kind of handle that. So I'm gonna go to my properties controller. Or actually I need to go to that property model where I do this, and I'm gonna do a lower method. I believe that's what I like kind of forgot. Let's see, IRB. So the lower method, maybe it's not that, what is it? Undefined method lower. Does anyone know what it is in Rails? Is it 2? Or no, it's down case. That's what it is, it's down case. Okay. So I can go like ABC dot down case. And that will down case it. So since I lower it here, I need to lower that variable, and that will just make sure everything everyone's using gets down cased, which should fix this issue. Hopefully, there we go. So yeah, to find that issue, I was logging the properties, and then I saw it was coming back as an empty array. So I was like, I kind of knew my Axios call was looking. So then I looked at my server, you know, and was able to see, you know, the city was uppercase Draper, but then down here, it was also like, so I can see my SQL call right there. And then I noticed, I was like, oh, that's a lowercase. So that was a little tricky to find, but sweet. All right, we went a little long again today, so I'm gonna call it good. Are there any questions? I'm gonna push this up to GitHub right now, but does anyone need any of this code? Is your minds feeling like they're exploding? Yeah.
Feel like if they are exploded.
Yeah, well, we have like this whole, we're going to take, you know, tomorrow and Friday as well with this. So it's a good little preview before your like portfolio projects. So cool. Well, that is it for me. So if you have any questions, you can hop off. Let's come back at 2:10.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Have a good lunch.
Yeah, after lunch.